All right, we're live.
We're live and we're well, and we're happy to see you.
Well, the pleasure's always mine. It goes without saying, but I look forward to seeing you next week, right?
Oh man, I'm excited that you're coming down.
I know. You always create space and an opportunity for me to build something with you. And
Mm.
what an absolute honor to do that in person.
Listen, even though Zoom is a miracle of modern technology, and we've got all of those tools that we've got, there is nothing like being together and kind of like in the space of and working with each other and kind of bouncing off of each other. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, and I know many people are going to benefit from that program that we're going to create.
Mm.
It's going to be so fun. I can't contain my excitement. I try often, but with that, I'm headed to Clearwater for pit softball. They are getting ready to have their open part of the season for their spring season. I'm super excited. A lot of them don't even know I'm coming, and I mentor many of them. They consider me the team mentor, which has been such a high honor.
I can totally get it. Yeah.
And formally, I mentor three. And one of the things that I think is going to be fascinating to see from all of the women on that team is how to overcome a losing season, right? Or, bring that into business. You come off of a bad business year where maybe you hit the numbers you were supposed to hit, but it felt terrible. It felt like you were an
Mhm.
absolute failure. And how do you take that first step? Is there a one size fits all? What's your approach, John? What's my approach? And then hopefully we can help and learn from others that may have a different way of doing it if you're good with that.
Yeah, first of all, I think that's really interesting to think about. For if for no other reason, Sammy, than we're coming off of COVID, so we're right now March. We're coming up on March, so it'll be 3 years this month that we've been away and not really being able to perform at our highest level and so on like that. So I think that's a great question and a great place for us to look at together.
Yeah. And, there's not a lack of desire from, the pit softball team. And, they're near and
No.
dear to my heart and they are every bit of the competitor and the athletes. But I'll tell you this, one of the most interesting aspects of this weekend for them is they're playing big time competitors. They're not going in for teams that they know they can beat. In fact, they're actually going to be playing some teams who made it to, the regionals and the playoffs. And we're talking about you could get humbled real quick, or you can show a little bit of grit. And hey, maybe you're better than you think you are. So, what's your take on going all in after a losing season and go for like that top competitor or go for that top project, or are you more, hey, coast in a little bit? I mean, I have an idea of what you may say, but I'm interested.
Well, it's baseball. So win a few, lose a few you get rained out, but you suit up for all of them. That's for openers. You really got to get that winning and losing are part of the process of the game,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is the game of baseball or whether it's the game of business
Yeah.
or whether it's the game of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ultimately, that's what it is. It's the game of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think there's any silver bullet. I don't think there's any, one size fits all uh, deal. But I do think that there's something that if if you do this, you're at least on the right path, and if you don't do this, you're never going to get there.
Okay.
And uh, that is dealing authentically with your relationships.
Okay. Tell me
You
more.
know, well, you got a team,
Mm-hmm.
and you're counting on the other people on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got different skill sets, and you've got different degrees of skill, and so on like that. And you don't always have, particularly in Division One, you don't always have everybody is a pro potential kind of player.
Mhm.
What you've got is you've got people who have to learn how to play together, and they have to learn how to play off of each other and with each other in such a way that they're making the greatest, taking the greatest advantage of their various skill sets. So there's no. This is baseball. It's not about rock stars. It's about people working together and really having an appreciation for and reaching over and helping people who are not maybe moving along as quickly as they can, cross coaching each other,
Mhm.
things of that nature.
I have a little different approach. Mine's a little bit more gut check, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I could care less about the game itself on day one.
Mm-hmm.
I care about all the practice that you did coming up to that game and how hard did you go, and being lit with a fire because you came off of a total result that was not champion caliber, and you should feel some type of way about that. And I am all about doing the front end work. The fun part is the game itself. But what happens, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week about finite players and infinite players and Simon Sinek's kind of takeaways here. Baseball is a game of finite. You know how many innings there are. Whoever has the most runs wins the game. But what happens in life and in general is, okay, well, I have 7 innings. So if the first inning's not great, okay, well, it's okay. I've got the second inning, the third inning, fourth inning, fifth inning. And then you get to the 6th or 7th inning and there's 2 outs, and you're up to bat. You've got a runner on second base. It's a 3-2 count. What are you going to do? Instead of having the sense of urgency at the front end of that, right? Let's not wait to your game. Let's not wait to be like, oh, I have that one more from a negative connotation standpoint instead of having urgency. For me, I want you to make your mistakes, fail often, fail fast, but I want you to do it in practice. Practice should feel like a game. And what happens is we don't do that, right? Same in business. There's a lot of work you can do at the front end of previous projects and learnings and postmortems and things to help be a catalyst to start at a better spot in the next project. But for some reason, there's no connectivity. There's no urgency to be able to want to connect those dots. And I think that's really where the magic lies, is in the pre-wiring, the pre-work, the connecting the dots of truly learning from what didn't go so well, and look and have ownership in yourself before you start saying, well, I don't like this, or I don't like that system, or someone, we need more of this. It's easy to do that. It's harder to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I agree with everything that you're saying. I would say that the 2 most urgent words in the game of baseball are play ball.
Yeah.
That this is not something where you get to go and have you're sort of feeling the other team out, and we're wondering how they're going to play today, and we're trying to figure out whether I really feel like putting everything into it. If you're not in the game all in, leaning in, you have no right, and I mean from the words play ball, you have no right to have any expectation of winning. And that starts with the first day of practice. So you're in spring training. You're there to win your position on the team. You're there to lean in. You're there to be all in, and you're there to be a team player. And so it's really about relationship. It's really about being a team player. It's really about leaning in all the way. And then it's kind of like when we get to the game itself, we'll see what happens. But if we've done the work ahead of time, in show business, it's the same thing. Either you're well rehearsed or you're not. If
Yeah.
you're not well rehearsed, you're going to be embarrassed on the stage in front of people. There's no walking in and just kind of doing it off the, kind of like off the cuff.
Hmm.
You've got to do what it takes. If you're a dancer, uh, you go to class every day that you're not working, you go to class. And even a lot of days you are working, you go to class. If you're a singer, you go and do your vocals. If you're an actor, you play your scenes. If you're a business person, you're doing the basic fundamentals of business
Hmm.
every single day. That's what you build your business on.
Hmm.
And the same thing's true with a winning team.
Hmm.
A winning team starts somewhere between your ears, and it starts well before the season, starts.
Yeah. And for me, I think, as a former softball player and a pit softball player that was part of Team 9 at the beginning stages when they were building the program before they had the stadium, I think one of the things that I learned quick and was one of the reasons why I have been able to connect the dots in sports and business so well is I understood that I would fail more than be successful in the game of softball. It is the way that game is designed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I started to learn was how do I just do it quicker? Right. So if I have 3 up at bats, right, my first one in the at bat itself, I wanted to make correction. I didn't want to waste that at bat because I only had 3 in a 7-inning game. So I started to understand the intentionality, right? The urgency and thirst of paying attention. And that meant that if I only had 3 up at bats, okay, how can I absorb quicker, right? Obviously, hands on, I'm actually hitting. I get that. But when I'm in the dugout, I'm paying attention to everything.
You betcha.
I'm paying attention to the pitches being called, the coaches tells, how players are shifting, the mannerisms. That I went multiple layers deep because there's levels to the game. So on surface level, you think offense, defense. And it's so much bigger than that. It's a game of strategy. It's a game of chess game, like chess pieces that you get to move on a board. And that became such a huge aha moment for me, which carried me at the end of my sophomore year into my junior year, and is why
Mm-hmm.
I had such a breakout junior year. And I always, I harp on this quite a bit. And I'm like, I can tell what type of player you are by watching you for one full inning. Now, I can get a gauge of who you are, your energy. That's great, right? But I know what kind of player you are with one inning on the offense, defense side, how you approach each of them. If you're in every play versus not every play, how you move and shake. Same thing in business. I know what kind of business person you are when you're not the one in the front, when you're a little bit in the background, where you need to put someone else up. You need to champion someone else, but you really want that role. But that other person is the better fit for the role. So your ego has no place here. There's levels to this game, and it has nothing to do about the presentation itself. It has nothing to do about the win or the loss. I want to win all the time. I'm a champion. I know how to win. That's always going to be ingrained in me. But I am so fascinated about all of the little wins throughout the journey, not just game day. Not just game day, because it's so much bigger than that. How many practices do you have versus games? You have a whole lot more practice than you do game. Right?
Well, I'll tell you, and particularly in the game, well, you take a look at the game of baseball, but you can make an analogy to business. You can make an analogy to virtually any kind of business. You're at bat, and you may call that 1 or 2 or 3 at bats, but I'll tell you, every single at bat, you've got the potentiality of 4 balls and 3 strikes. And every single one of them is a strategic moment.
Mhm.
That's why you step out, you kind of take a look around, you check out how the outfield is positioned, you take a look at how the defense is set up and everything else like that. You step back in, and then the umpire calls, time in, and the pitch is coming. And the interesting thing about baseball is we know, I had a very, very close friend named Barry Woodruff. He pitched for the Indians and he pitched for Kansas City.
Mhm.
And we used to sit and watch games, and he would call every single pitch because you know what? It's a game of strategy, and in every single moment, every single person who knows the game knows what needs to happen. The question is, can you make it happen?
Exactly. Boom. The way you make it happen is when you're tired, when you feel you have nothing left,
Right.
you still have the power of one more. That is the difference. It wasn't that Kobe Bryant wasn't ever tired, but he
Nope.
understood the power of one more than you could do. And that then culminated into sizable gains. So while some people are trying to get 100% better each day, I don't look, there's going to be days where you may get that. Fantastic. Go for it. I'm all in for that. But the power of just getting 1% better, 2% better a day,
Yep.
that
Yep.
is so much more achievable. And from a brain perspective, you can wire yourself to actually accept that because your brain wants to use less energy. So if I think, oh, just 1%, what's 1% when I feel like I've been running 100 miles an hour? It's just 1% versus I need to get 100% better than I was yesterday. And I just got crushed yesterday. It's a different mentality. And it's the same thing in sport. It's the same thing in business. And kind of knowing when you're actually up to bat. For me, up to bat really means all the practice before the game. Because when you have your habit and ritual, and Simon Sinek says this all the time, like that's what carries you through when things go south. You go back to your habits and your rituals. Where do you get those? Deion Sanders says it all the time. You have to practice like it's a game because that's when you really can figure out how you can strategically maneuver, not when you're in the game. Man, when you're in the game, it's different.
You better be pretty much on reflex when you're in the game.
Yeah.
You better have done the work so that it is so there's no thinking about what you got to do. If you got to think about it, you're going to be too slow and somebody else is going to be quicker than you and you're going to lose.
Exactly. And there's something that you just said that triggered something in me in a good way is when you get into the room in business, right? You want to earn your seat at the table. You're already in the room. You're forgetting that already. So you're already having a negative connotation that you're in the room. Who cares if you have a seat? You're in the room. You'll earn your seat because you've got in the room, right? But people don't understand. Like if the CEO is at the head of the table and you're presenting out, half the battle for a CEO is to try to figure out, is this person just nervous or do they just not know what they're telling me? And they have to make that assessment. And if they feel like you don't know, then that's where you feel that they're poking things apart. They're looking for numbers. Oh, why is the CEO micromanaging? Why is she or he doing this or saying this or questioning that? Well, you gave them the authority to do it because,
you did.
Right? Whereas if you're just nervous, but you stick to your data, you stick, right? And then you start to get comfortable, right? That point, you get this point. It's kind of, I don't want to say a plateau, that's not the right word, but you get in flow where you're nervous up front, but then you start going, and then the whole room kind of, oh, now the phone's down, they're all paying attention, not going through the presentation. There's two different approaches in that, right? So it's very
there's always a place and a time where if you're present, that you're going to be in the game of whatever it is you're doing. I used to be on stage a lot and sitting in the wings, standing in the wings, getting ready to go on. always a little bit of kind of nervousness,
Yeah.
anxious to get on there and so on like that. But I'll guarantee you, the second that the music started, which was what was going to bring us onto the stage, it was like, now you better be out there owning the stage.
Yeah.
There's actually an expression in show business that you could use in sports, and you could use it in business too. And the business is taking stage.
Yeah.
You know, if you go see a really great performer perform, they come onto the stage from the upper right or the upper left part of the stage. But the first thing that they do is they come down stage, and then they start going back and forth across the stage. What they're doing is they're taking stage. It's their stage.
Yeah. And
I had
great.
one of the people that I was working with one time. We were working in Las Vegas, and there was a woman who was sitting ringside, and she wasn't paying attention. She was chatting. She was talking. She was, she was being rude, and we were killing ourselves and everything. But what she had done is she had taken her purse and she had set it on the edge of the stage. And the performer was a woman named Juliet Prowse, looked down at her and said, "Hi there," and got her attention because she had to say it twice. "Hi there, hi there." And then she said, and this person was clearly being rude, and it was distracting everybody. And Juliet said, she said, "Are you in show business?" And the woman said, "No." And she said, "Well, then get your fucking purse off my stage."
Wow.
Don't allow anybody to take your stage. You take stage. If it's your business, take stage. If it's if you're in the game, take stage. Take the field. Taking the field means more than just going out there and standing somewhere.
There you go. I mean, that to me is where it all comes together, right? You may be playing in a finite game. Business is an infinite game. We know that, right? So there's a little bit of a difference there. But the biggest thing about playing in a finite game is you need to be ever more intentional because you need to take stage. You need to do your part as part of the team. And if you're a tennis player or if you're an individual player like in golf, right, you still have a team around you. They may not be at the front, but it takes a village to be a phenom. It takes a village to get to the highest levels in anything in life. And
boy, that's for sure.
Everyone wants to focus on, oh, it's different, individual sports versus team sports. Hell no, absolutely not. It's just you have more people at the front versus more people in the back, right? It's the same thing about infinite and finite, right? When you have finite, you've got, you know what your sandbox looks like. You've got the people out on the field, the rules. You really can't go beyond those rules. It's kind of dictated. Whereas, in business, you can recreate some, rules, here and there, but there's a process. There's, things that you have to break through. But no matter what game you're playing, you have to show up. You have to do what I call the beast mode switch. That's your take stage is my beach,
Yeah, that's really good.
I was
just watching a woman who is 40 years old. Her name is Mary Yolo.
Okay.
And she's a track and field star. She has probably 15 world records and all of this. And she was running in the 60-yard dash. This was in Germany. And she was running in the 60-yard sprint. She was not going to win the sprint running against 20-year-olds. But what she did was she set a world record for women, for mature adults her age, or over 40. So masters, they call it, the masters division. And she sets this, she runs a 60-yard sprint in 7.73 seconds, and then comes back 10 minutes later and runs in the next, because she gets into the final heat, and she runs it in 7.5, breaks her own world record on the way to placing. I think she placed a total of third in the race, 40 years old.
Wow.
This woman shows up to play.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, the takeaway here is, take stage, step in,
Take
and
stage.
do what is required before the big day. Don't feel like your practice is just one step to the game day. It's not about game day, right? It's not about the end result. It is about the journey. And each practice is game day. Each practice is set the stage and take stage. Set it and take it. Set it and take it. It has to happen that way in order for you to truly learn from failing. Because if not, what happens is if you coast, then you're going to have to do it in game. And you don't have the history to do it.
Yeah, and I think the thing to do is, you've got this, like Pitt. Pitt had a losing season last year of women's softball. But there is a moment where they, as a team, have got to sit down and look in each other's eyes. They've got to actually look in the eyes and say, look, are we showing up to play ball? Are we showing up to play around?
Yeah.
Because Division I softball, you're not there to play around. You're there to play ball.
Yeah. So I'm excited to go see them. I'm pretty close to them. I've been talking to many of them. They don't know I'm coming, but I wanted to talk about that today because number one, it gets me fired up because every new day is a chance to be great. And even more than that, you get to choose that greatness, right?
Yep.
So you can have a chance to be great, or you can choose that. And it's just taking stage and showing up to choose that and not waiting for the moment itself, but what are those little things? What are those little decisions that you can make that form your habit and ritual so you can play that finite game even better?
Yep. I would say that's about 75 to 80% of the game right there. And then the next piece, I would just say as a little add-on is be coachable.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I will tell you this. When you're playing D1 sports, you have to be coachable. What's happening now is you've got all these other influences that are kind of they're taking away from the athletes. Okay, that's the wrong way to say it. They're taking away the focus for the athletes to be coachable because if they don't like something, they can go somewhere else.
Yep.
But they'll lose a whole season. So not only are you playing a finite game, you're playing in a finite career where most people will only play at the college level, right? I mean, even getting to the college level, top 5%, but
that's pretty extraordinary.
So,
to be playing at the college level at any level, and then to be playing Division I college level NCAA, pretty amazing.
It is. So why not set yourself up for success and be coachable? And who cares if you get an NIL deal? Who cares if you don't like your coach? Guess what? There's going to be a lot of bosses that are more managers than leaders, and you're not going to like them. You're not going to have the ability to choose. So humble yourself and have a little bit of sponge season. Have a little bit of character. Don't just go when times get tough. I want to know the decisions you make when it gets tough, when you are tough.
Right.
That's how I learned who you are.
Well, isn't that the real purpose of sport? Yeah. Isn't that the real purpose? Yeah. Is to develop character.
You're right.
Those are the ones I want to play with. I want to play with the ones that have demonstrated character.
Yeah. So yeah, as ever, right? All in, lean in, fall forward fast. Don't wait for game day. Set the stage and actually take stage every practice, every chance you get. So when you are on, you're on.
The thing about it, that's the easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to suffer if you don't.
I know. And you're already in a finite game like baseball, softball, football. you're already in a finite game of you're either going to win or you're going to lose, for the exception of like in the NFL, you can actually tie, which blows my mind. And I think even in soccer, you can tie. But you know the parameters in which you're at, right? So most people just don't like ambiguity. They shy away from it. But you're playing a finite game. You know what you're actually walking into. So why
That's
not
right.
make the best of it? It's not like, hey, in business, you're going to get lost in the sauce. You don't know where you're going to be, you know, this and that. I can understand some of the reservation. There's ways you can navigate that. But in sport, come on. You have a chance and a choice, and you have to choose that intentionality every day. And you
You
get
do.
to make that.
You do. That is so true.
But yeah, I wanted to keep this one a little bit more short, sweet, to the point.
I
I'm
like
excited.
this. I like this. I like it. But I mean, it really, you got to it, and you laid out the whole thing, but the whole thing is just really, leaning in,
Yep.
all in, lay it up,
I know.
leave your game on the practice field, just get in there. And, Kobe, you talk about Kobe, one of my big heroes, and Kobe used to say, I've done the work, bring it on.
Yeah. It's the same thing when you go to present in front of the CEO. You may be nervous.
That's
You're the
right.
expert in the room. You've done the work. You're the one that really knows everything. And what you want to do is, you know, that other people's time is extremely valuable, and that is one asset you cannot get back. So knowing what you need from the team, and guess what? It could mean that your idea that you thought was so great that you got emotionally tied to is not so great. And that's okay, because you have other people around, a team to hold you accountable, to be candor, to give you thoughtful debate. So when you walk out, now you have the solution and path forward for the right journey.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Really good advice, Sammy. Really good
yeah.
advice.
As ever, thank you. I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing Pitt Softball this weekend. It's going to be really fun. I can't wait. We're going to have to film Thoughtful Thursdays together next week.
Well, there you go.
I love it. All right.
Okay, my darling. Take care.
Bye.